Hey yo guys, I'm back here to give you my reviews of both the HBO Boxing After Dark and may as well include some of the other boxing that took place over this past weekend, as well as last night's WEC 39 show from Corpus Christi, Texas. Gotta say the WEC show, pretty good, really good show I should say. Three out of the four main card fights delivered. The fight that actually, for a lightweight fight that you thought would have delivered more, Razor Rob McCullough and Marcus Hicks, I have no clue what the fuck got into those guys. Absolutely one of the most disappointing fights I've seen all year. Wouldn't call it one of the worst fights of the year, but I guess at this rate it's up there as worst fight of the year in my mind. But anyways, I'll get to the WEC 39 show. That took place last night from Corpus Christi, Texas. The WEC's first, I believe this was Zuffa's first attempt to, or first show in the state of Texas. Anyways, so we started things out with Razor Rob McCullough versus Marcus Hicks, as I mentioned, in a lightweight bout. The first round was pretty dull, as you know. They basically were both there standing on their feet, McCullough looked very tentative, not knowing, if he should throw a strike or a kick, what have you. Hicks would take advantage of this. Hicks would, throw enough, little shots with, a leg kick or, throw a punch. He would do more of that to, win the round, but, just because he had more activity. Second round, this fight actually started to get going as, they were kind of tentative off the start of there again. Hicks delivered, a strong hand, dropping McCullough, but McCullough still had his marbles there, which made Hicks go for a guillotine. He couldn't get the guillotine, and you could just tell once that McCullough got out of the guillotine, Hicks was just shot, because that's his whole bread and butter, getting you down, either ground and pounding you or choking you out via guillotine or any other form of a choke, and he didn't get that, and you could just tell that he was just shot from there. And this, led to McCullough getting the momentum back. He did more work. He threw more combinations, threw more leg kicks, what have you, too. In some people's mind, he won the round. I would call this round a draw, because, I still think that, dropping someone should be, taken into consideration. Definitely wouldn't be a 10-8, as, McCullough was still there, but still, I gave the round a draw. And then the third round, I don't know what the hell happened to both guys. It's like they thought the fight's over. I don't understand what the hell happened there. When you look at it, the fact that Hicks, he knew that he could drop McCullough, as he did it already in the previous round. He was back to being tentative, and McCullough had all this momentum from having to, survive the shot and the guillotine, and didn't take advantage of it. I don't understand what happened there. And then they just danced on their feet, and in this time, it was very similar to the first round, only this time it was McCullough, doing more with the leg kick punches, not enough, but still. But I thought the best part of this round, and maybe the whole fight, was the referee realizing nothing was happening, and he threatened to disqualify both guys if they didn't get to work. That was awesome. We need more referees like that. Anyways, Hicks wins the, Razor Rob McCullough wins the fight by majority decision. I had this fight as a draw. I don't know about you, but to me, I just think that the second round was just too close. So I scored it even, and then, McCullough wins the last, and Hicks won the first. Very disappointing fight. A lot of these guys, these guys used to be, top-tier contenders. McCullough was former lightweight champion. Hicks was a #1 contender, and now they've just fallen off the face of the earth. Anyways, then we went to the next fight, which was Jose Aldo versus Chris Mickle. Really, this fight was what I thought it would be. Jose Aldo just dominating some young opponent. Chris Mickle definitely was outclassed here. He got basically barraged with, shots. There was an onslaught of punches there from Aldo. The interesting thing with Aldo is apparently he's a lot better on the ground. Now, we haven't seen him go to the ground, but, just the fact that he may be a lot better than, on the ground than him standing is scary, because his ground striking, his stand is really, really, really strong. Whether it's strikes, knees, kicks, what have you. Jose Aldo is, a top-tier contender. I think he needs to, go up in there up against, a tougher opponent. He hasn't really had that tough an opponent, I think, before we can consider him, getting a title shot. Maybe a fight with Faber, I don't know. But still, Jose Aldo gets the win, and he looks even more dominating than we all thought he could have been. Anyways, then we went to the next fight, which they showed a prelim fight, which was Marcos Gouveia versus Damasio Page, and Page just absolutely decimates Gouveia. Really just rocked him here. You know, he'd like 3 shots, and basically Gouveia was out on the 3rd one, and he drops him. Ref stops the fight. Fight ends in about 18 seconds, and I'm told that you know, after Page rocked him, that they had to take Gouveia out on a stretcher. That's a pretty serious incident there. You know, those are some heavy shots that Page threw at Gouveia there. So I look for big things from Page here, but you know, pretty scary moment. I was disappointed that, you know, the Zuffa company as a whole, they don't, you know, take light into this. I mean, you know, God forbid someone dies, but you know, you'd have to make mention of that on your broadcast or something. Like, you know, halt your show for that reason or something. You know, if someone gets serious here, you should just, you know, make mention that, hey, he did, you know, but he's fine, you know, but we'll hope to get you word. I mean, I don't understand why. You're running away from incidents that you don't need to be running away from. I mean, this sport, there's bound to be injuries. It's a combat sport, you know. Someone's bound to get hurt eventually. I mean, just make mention of how they're doing, or, you know, they get to taken off on the stretcher, and we'll get you later. And what have you, or, you know, just head to our website and we'll just plug, you know, that he's okay. Just something, not just running away from it. That doesn't make your promotion, you know, the Zuffa company as a whole look strong. Anyways, then we went to the next fight, which was Bart Palaszewski versus Ricardo Lamas. Didn't know that much about Lamas. I believe I knew he was a pretty strong wrestler, and he proved that to be. The one thing I was actually really impressed with was his ability to, his strength. He was a pretty strong guy. I mean, Palaszewski really couldn't, you know, do anything, you know, on the ground. When he tried to, you know, like push off, what have you, Lamas was just too strong and was able to, you know, keep Palaszewski in control. But, you know, give Bart Palaszewski all the credit in the world. He's a gamer. He kept trying for submissions. I mean, he tried for guillotines. He tried for Kimuras plenty of times, but just couldn't get it. You know, Lamas fought a smart fight. He kept it on the ground because he knew that he probably would have stand up. I give Ricardo Lamas all the props in the world for doing that. And I mean, it's a smart fight. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, that's bullshit that you're laying on him, but he really wasn't laying. I mean, he would, you know, out-wrestle him, you know, ground and pound him for a bit. Not, you know, as much, but still, you know, he did a, you know, fair, smart fight. I mean, what are you going to want him to do? You know, not be in his element and get knocked out? No, that's not what you do. Really impressed with Ricardo Lamas. He won all rounds in my mind, and I believe in a couple other judges' minds. So, yeah, really good fight there for Ricardo Lamas. Tough break for Palaszewski, but he'll be back. I mean, he's a veteran, you know. He just suffered, I believe, his 11th loss now. So he'll be back. He's a gamer. So, you know, I was just really impressed with Lamas there. And, hey, I mean, at least give Palaszewski for trying to make it into a fight where he would, you know, just try for a submission, what have you. And he tried to get it up standing, but, you know, Lamas was just too strong and pushing back down and, you know, keep the fight on it. So that's all I got. That's all I have to say about that. And then we went to the main event for the WBC Featherweight Championship. Mike Thomas Brown defended against the home state hero of the night, I should say, in Leonard, the bad boy Garcia. And let me tell you something. A lot of people were like, man, who's this Mike Brown? You know, it's a fluky win that he beats Uriah Faber. Well, Mike Brown right now has proved us absolutely all wrong when he just rocked Leonard Garcia's world. I mean, it was a bad night for the bad boy. Let's just put it that way. I mean, they came out, they started standing. Brown with this amazing, like, shot. I mean, he's got so much power in his hands, and he doesn't really look like the guy that would. I mean, when you look at his face, you know, he seems just like, you know, maybe a good fighter. He'll out-rust you, but he doesn't look like a powerful fighter. He just, you know, threw this right hand, drops Garcia down. You know, Brown then mounted him, delivered a vicious elbow that busts Garcia open. Garcia eventually did get, you know, his marbles back together, but Brown is just so strong and what have you. Eventually got, you know, he got a neck crank submission or a head and shoulder choke, what have you. Gets a submission. Mike Brown just made a statement that, hey, I'm no joke. I'm not a fluky champion, what have you. I'm the real deal. And I definitely think he there. You could tell in the post-fight interview that Leonard Garcia absolutely really wanted to win this fight. That didn't happen as he got met with that hard right hand, and that just changed the whole complexion. It scrambled his brains. You know, Garcia eventually did get things back together, like I said, but, I mean, he was just overwhelmed there. Brown was just too good for him tonight. Definitely think Leonard Garcia will come back. I mean, he's a strong competitor in the featherweight division. He has strong hands, but he just got last night, so that's just my thoughts there. And then, you know, they look like to hype up Uriah Faber versus Mike Brown again. I think, you know what, there should be a #1 contender fight as they're really hyping up Aldo. I think it'd be, the smart thing would be, let's see Aldo versus Faber. That's just me. Although I have heard that Aldo may move down to Bantam and could potentially take on Miguel Torres. So that could be an interesting fight, but we'll see how things pan out. But overall, a really good show up to this show. If you haven't seen it, hopefully you get a chance to. Only thing I would recommend, just don't see Razor Rod McCollough versus Marquez, as that was a weak fight. Anyways, then we move over to the realm of the sweet science of boxing. A lot of boxing this weekend, you know, between, you know, ESPN Friday Night Fights, Showbox, The New Generation, and of course HBO Boxing After Dark. I mean, for people who say the sport is dead, I disagree. And when you look at the upcoming fights, I don't see how the sport can be dead. I mean, there's a lot of big fights coming up. I mean, you got Winky Wright making his comeback. You know, you got Pacquiao versus Hatton. You got Timothy Bradley versus, frick, what the hell? I forgot his name at the moment. Oh my god. Timothy Bradley's, Kendall Holt. Yes, Timothy Bradley versus Kendall Holt. That's a big fight coming up. Of course, that's, you know, WrestleMania weekend, as, you know, everything seems to be WrestleMania weekend. But anyways, let me get to the HBO Boxing After Dark review. Gotta say, this was a really good show. I mean, definitely had a fight of the year on it. Of course, you know, Chris John versus Rocky Warus started the night off here. I guess before I get to that fight, I was really impressed with HBO. The fact, I think this is the best commentary duo they have with, you know, being, you know, the lead guy, you know, your play-by-play. Emmanuel can be your, you know, insight guy, who I think Emmanuel does a pretty good job. Not as good as, you know, George Foreman used to be, but I think Emmanuel is good enough. And then you got Max Kellerman, who can be, you know, your color guy. So I think that's a perfect combination there. I think you could maybe keep Kellerman more so than Merchant. Yeah, Merchant, you know, he's been a mainstay there. But, you know, boxing right now has been one of the few things to me that's benefited from the poor economy. Excuse me. Where the fact that they're putting on more shows on free television more so than pay-per-view. Also, I guess it's that mentality that I think boxing has over than, you know, MMA or pro wrestling, which I think is a strong thing, that only the fights that deserve to be on pay-per-view go to pay-per-view, like Pacquiao and Hatton, you know. But anyways, you know, so they're putting on these more free shows, and you're gonna maybe get a younger audience, what have you. You don't want to see this old crusty man up on there. That's just me. You want to see someone young, you know, that you can kind of identify with and understand where he's coming from. So that's just me. But anyways, we get to the first fight of the night from HBO Boxing After Dark, as they took place from, this one also took place from Houston, Texas. Big night, a big weekend for Texas in the combat sports world. But anyways, Chris John versus Rocky Warus. Rocky Warus, another Houston fighter. You know, he, to me, in the early stages of the round, he won the first 2 rounds, and then from then on, Chris John took over. You know, he would, you know, fight, you know, use the work to the body, you know, some decent amount of shots up to the head, but, you know, the body work was pretty strong, and that's where I think, you know, he won most of the round, and was able to, you know, keep Juarez at bay. He won most of the rounds, and up until that point, and then, you know, at the end of the round, end of the fight, I say, you know, the last 2 rounds, Rocky came back and, you know, fought strong, fought like a warrior he is. Almost enough. I mean, he almost drops, I believe he rocked for sure Chris John. I don't know if he almost dropped him, but he definitely rocked John. And, you know, could have maybe got him down, I don't know. But still, really impressed with Rocky Juarez. You know, heart came back, you know, when he could have just, you know, quit in reality. But he knew where he was, his hometown, he couldn't do that. And, you know, he's got that, you know, Mexican mentality that, you know, you never quit, you just keep fighting strong, and that's what happened here. He fought real strong there, you know, proved that, you know, he's a real top contender, but he's always going to be, you know, a bridesmaid, never a bride, to pardon the pun. I mean, he didn't get the championship that he wanted from Chris John, but, you know, he fought his heart out, and he always will be a fighter in contention. The championship, maybe one day, but tonight wasn't his night, as Chris John just, you know, outworked him towards the end. And anyways, then we went to the fight that a lot of people, including myself, are hailing as the best fight of 2009. And, you know, these other fights that are upcoming, they better top the hell out of this one. We had the fight everyone was looking for. As I said in my prediction, this could have been a fight of the year, and it definitely was. We had Juan Manuel Marquez versus Juan Diaz. This fight was awesome. I mean, let's just put it this way. Awesome. You know, in the pre-fight things, you know, they had the thing with Marquez saying that, you know, oh, Diaz is, you know, half American, half Mexican. I'm 100% Mexican. Well, I can tell you one thing. I bet you Juan Manuel Marquez definitely felt some shots from a guy who felt like a full 100% Mexican instead of the half. He definitely came up there, fought well. Marquez wrong there, up the gut, you know. He kept the fight where he wanted to do the early portions of the round. You know, the majority of the fight he did, with the ring geography, like I said, it would be, you know, important where, you know, Marquez wanted to keep the fight out in the middle, out in the open, where he could do most of his damage. But Diaz was able to, you know, be the baby bull that he was, push, you know, Marquez up into the ropes, into the corners, and, you know, go to town him. He just absolutely rocked Marquez a couple of times. You know, there was this moment where in the second round where he delivered this amazing shot right to the jaw, you know, amazing right hand, I believe it was a hook, what have you. He rocked him, and, you know, Marquez came back, you know, threw a punch right immediately after that. I mean, these guys are just absolute warriors. They just kept out there throwing these punches. You know, it's just something that, you know, boxing has that, you know, wrestling or MMA can't have right now. You have two great fighters like this, and it clicks. Nothing can stop it. And I think the other thing that made this fight so great, it was for the fight to determine who was the best lightweight in the world with the Ring Magazine Championship. So that's how it happens. And then eventually, you know, Marquez, you know, being the veteran he is, gets the fight together, keeps the fight more so center ring, you know, away from the ropes, and, you know, starts to go to work on the body. He eventually cuts Diaz over the left eye, and that basically the whole momentum of the fight for Diaz, as eventually right after that, you know, Diaz gets hit with an uppercut, goes down, goes through the ropes, you know, gets back up, and then, you know, Marquez just finishes him off with another perfect uppercut, dropping Diaz. The fight is over. I mean, ref doesn't even need to count. He knows Diaz is out. He's had enough. They end the fight. Excellent fight. Definitely, I mean, I watched this fight twice. I watched it live, and then I caught the replay on HBO. Excellent fight. If you get the chance to, you know, I believe it's going to be on HBO 2 in the States again. I don't know the time. Apologies for that, but, you know, check your local listings to see when it's going to be. Definitely need to see this fight. Definitely this fight moves Berto versus Collazo off the top rankings. But yeah, like I said, it was a great night of weekend of boxing. On Showtime, we had Thomas Adamek absolutely rock John Banks. I mean, this was just a sick knockout. I was actually impressed very much with Banks in the early portion of the fight, because he made Adamek fight his fight, you know, keeping the distance, you know, not wanting to, you know, mix it up with Adamek, as he knew Adamek would probably, you know, rock him, which eventually happened. And then, you know, that's what happened. They were, you know, Banks didn't keep his distance. Adamek rocked it hard. I mean, they could have just ended the fight on this. I mean, Banks flew from, you know, midway to the ring into the ropes, didn't, you know, got up, and then you just knew this isn't going to be good. Adamek rushed him into the corner and just pounded him. I mean, he hit 3 solid shots, and, you know, Banks just crumples in the corner. Kind of like, you know, when Chuck Liddell knocked out Guy Mesker, to an extent. I mean, I wouldn't say as much, but kind of like that, you know, how his body was lying there. That's just my thoughts there. On ESPN Friday Night Fights, they had a pretty strong show, I have to say that. You know, they had like a good main event with Glenn Johnson versus Daniel Judah. This fight was, you know, definitely, you know, time has come on Judah. I mean, he's not the same Daniel Judah as he was, you know, back, you know, 3-4 years ago. And when the last time he fought Johnson, they got the draw. Johnson absolutely just, you know, picked him apart round by round. He won every round in my mind. You know, he Judah in the first, and he just took things over from there. But I think the fight that was more interesting was the Gonzalez-Smith fight that took place. And this fight was awesome. For a Friday night fight, that, you know, most of those fights are either very one-sided or what have you. It's very rare you get a fight where, you know, it mixes up and you're not sure. I mean, it wasn't, you know, the best Friday night fight I've ever seen, but still, it was a really good fight. I mean, you had Gonzalez, you know, dictate the pace, you know, do everything right, but then, you know, he dipped his head, he left himself open, Smith rocked him, dropping him in the second, I believe it was second or third round, he drops him, and, you know, that just changed a bit of the complexion. Smith came back, you know, did some good things there. Gonzalez came back, fought like a warrior, to eventually, you know, win it a couple more rounds. I believe this was an 8-round fight. I don't remember the result at the moment. I believe, no, it was Smith getting the victory. I believe he got the split decision or majority decision. I don't know. That was a real tough fight. I mean, I think Gonzalez did more in the later portions. But, I mean, definitely a knockdown definitely puts, you a high up in the scorecard. Definitely makes it 10 now, 8 easily. So, that's just my thoughts there. Anyways, would love to know your, feedback. What you guys thought of the whole weekend of combat sports, for WBA match, worst match, overall opinion. Same with the boxing. Would love to know your feedback. I mean, I don't know. I haven't got much feedback from you guys as of late, and I would love some. But anyways, that's it for me. I am out. Peace.